All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back. We're in another live stream. We're taking a little bit of a, not a little bit of a break. We are actually going to be done with, for now, doing the stream recordings that we were doing before. So that'll be done. I'm kind of ahead right now. I've only got I think the last 5 I have to record, and then I have to edit 2 more of them. So for now, we're going to be back to the normal stuff. Let me sign into YouTube real quick so I can actually do the polls. But, as you guys may have known or seen by the title or the thumbnail, we're going to be doing a ranking of the books. Now, we have done this before. I think it was the last time we did, I think it was my own opinion, so it was like me talking through where I would place the books. But, again, as the community, grows or different people come into the community, it's always good to redo these, see what the community is, doing. It's also good for me for research purposes on... I'm going kind of through the books right now on like a deep dive, and I'm doing the first book and the real big deep dive, and then I'm doing Feast for Crows, which should be done early mid-January with the actual like content I want to do around it. I already have like the book done. I've had it done for a while, but yeah. Hi Haley, how are you? But yeah, we're gonna be going through the books. We're gonna talk about maybe the good stuff, the bad stuff, the stuff that maybe George could have improved upon, or maybe things that just didn't really hit correctly, like maybe how they should have. I think we're going to talk a lot more about that in like the 4 through 8 is stuff that is good and bad. There's going to be preferences, there's going to be bias, which is why I think it's really interesting to see people's rankings, because I think my personal rankings are quite different than most people's, right? I won't say them until the end because I don't want to influence what you guys are going to vote for or whatever, but again, I think for most people that have been in the channel for a while, they kind of already know what mine are, or what mine is. Did we already rank these, or are we ranking during the live? Yeah, we're going to be ranking during the live. We are not including the cookbooks. The only books we are including is Fire and Blood, A World of Ice and Fire, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and then the main series. Hi, Agor. By the way, how are you? I think Feast and Dance are the best written of the main series, but the worst edited. Interesting. I think that's a great observation, Jesse, because one of the things I've talked about is that I think this series, or I think Feast specifically. Let me talk about Feast specifically, because again, Dance, I'm going to be going through that in a little bit, but Feast is so weird because it just seems like certain plot lines are just not like paced as well as others. It just feels really weird. So I think that will be a criticism of those. But yeah, let me put this. I'm going to put this in chat and then we'll talk about it. Again, I'm going to let these go for quite a while, given that there's only 8 books. But we're going to start with, what's first on my thing? Fire and Blood? Okay, we'll do Fire and Blood first. Interesting one to start with, because I think for most people in the community, this would be on the lower side. I know for me personally, it's still like lower side, like it's not top 3 or anything, but I do have a lot more favor for this book. So let's see, how many options can I do? I can do... Let me see how many options, because the problem with this is I can't do every single one. Okay, so I can only do 4. Okay, so let's do 5, 6, 7, 8. Because I just know you guys are gonna have this in the lower side. So I guess it's kind of swaying because I'm the one choosing like what you can put it into, but. So this is going to be for Fire and Blood. Would you guys rank it 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th best book? For me personally, it would be right around that area, but we'll see. I'm good. I hope you are well. I'm pretty good. I got through a lot of like my closing stuff for my semester. So I have one exam Wednesday, which, I feel pretty okay about. It's open note, and it's one of the classes I'm doing better in. So even if I don't do like as good, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so that's been good. I got through a really big Christmas event that we had at my work, and that was very like stressful, and it just was just glad that that's over. It's by far one of my least favorite shifts to have to work all year. So that's through. So I'm happy that's over. Yeah, just glad to have a little bit more free time to start planning videos, getting the rest of this event done, because this event's almost done as in terms of like my work done to it. Like looking at it, it's only about halfway done for you guys, but for me personally, like I've already gotten through most of the content anyway. But yeah, so yeah, I kind of got to this point where I was like, okay, I kind of got ahead last week on the content. So I was like, this week we'll just kind of do something fun. We can just kind of talk about all the books and all of that. It's going to be hard to rank last place. All have their positives. I agree, Jim. And I think that's something that when I did my poll, because that, or not poll, but I think when I talked about Feast for Crows, I did a community post in which I asked, is it the worst of the main 5 books? I think people took that the wrong way. I think my wording could have been a lot better, because I'm not saying that Feast for Crows is a bad book, but I think the common sentiment within the community is that it is or not the lowest, but it's the weakest of the main 5. So I wanted to kind of understand why that is. Again, for me personally, it is the lowest, but I wanted to see why that sentiment was in the community. So I put a poll out for that, or I put a community post out for that. And yeah, so I think people kind of seem to take that the wrong way. I think all of the books are good. Even A World of Ice and Fire, I think all of them are good and add a lot of content. Sounds good, Zeno. How are you? 7 mid. Okay. I think that's a common sentiment, Ander. I think that's what I think most people think. Hi, random stuff. Oh, hi, Matthew. How are you? Glad to have you back. Advocate, how are you? I think do 1 through 4, then, or 5 through 8, then do another vote. Okay, so Ander, are you saying I should do one poll where it's like, would it be 1 through 4, and then like, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, we'll do that for the next one. We'll do that for the next one, Ander. When we get into like one of the more of the like controversial ones, we'll start doing that. Also, Fire and Blood is one of my favorite. Since House of the Dragon got me into A Song of Ice and Fire. Well, yeah, that's another thing, right? Fire and Blood is gonna have a little bit of, I think, boost in popularity a little bit because of House of the Dragon, because people wanting to read it, see what actually happened. But what do the numbers mean? So the numbers mean they're out of the 8 books that we are ranking. Where would you place this ranking? For the first one, Fire and Blood, just because I know it's not going to be a lot of people's favorites. It's even me, someone who really likes Fire and Blood, it's not in my top 4. So for the most part, it's going to be lower down. So if you're voting for 5th place, you think this is the 5th best book in A Song of Ice and Fire, the main series, World of Ice and Fire, and then Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and Fire and Blood. So 6 would be 6th place, 7th place, 8th place. Yeah, you get it. Hi Ashley, how are you? I think The World of Ice and Fire is better because it actually reads like a history book. Fire and Blood has way too much dialogue. I can see your point there, right? Because I think Fire and Blood tries to be a hybrid book, where initially it is a history book, but it does like devolve into a lot of gossip and rumors and part of that and all that, which is kind of why I like Fire and Blood, right? Because Fire and Blood is this book that you have a lot of unreliable narrators. It makes it interesting to try and piece together what you believe is the truth. That's one of the things that I think is a good and a bad thing, because some people will be turned off by that, won't like that style of reading, and some people will. I am someone that does like that style of reading. So I love Mushroom's perspective in Fire and Blood. Agree. He's always got some nice takes. Hi Josh, how are you? Good luck on Wednesday. Thank you. I don't think I'm gonna need it too much, but you know, it's just gonna be nice to be finally done. I think Feast is better than Dance. See, my thing is like, for me, I put Dance slightly ahead of Feast for Crows, just in terms of I have more I enjoy in Dance. Like, the problem is with those 2 books specifically is I think Feast throughout, right? If we're looking at an average chapter of A Feast for Crows versus an average chapter of A Dance with Dragons, I think A Feast for Crows is better written in that part of it. I think Dance with Dragons has more high chapters. It's more memorable than Feast. That's where I would look at Dance. Dance has a lot of low chapters. It has a lot of high chapters, whereas Feast for Crows has a lot of middle ground chapters where it's not a bad chapter. It's not top 10 chapters of the book, but they're good. And even with that being said, Feast still has, a couple of chapters that I would say are top chapters, but also social media do be overrated a little bit. Hi, Dirty Dan. How are you? The Advocate, that's kind of how I feel. Like, my thing with The World of Ice and Fire is it's a book that I like the history that it gives, some information that we can expand upon in it, because it kind of reads, it's kind of like, how would I put this? An encyclopedia. It's not even like a history book in reality. It's like, it's an encyclopedia book mixed with a history book. And so it can be a very stale read at times. And it's also, it's like some of it's like, okay, a big chunk of it, especially the Targaryen stuff, is like mainly just fire and blood. And then you get to the after that, and there's not a ton of information, but what we do get is really interesting. So I enjoy that stuff. So there's good and bad to it. How much time do we have to vote on each book? I'm going to give you guys quite a bit of time for each book. Again, I will have to stop the stream by 6:30 regardless. I have my uncle's birthday I'm going to go to. Thankfully, his house is quite literally like diagonal, and it's basically my backyard. So that's kind of cool. That's what my grandparents did. Is they wanted us to be all live kind of close together, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, I'm going to be going to his house at 6:30. So I'm going to give you guys quite a while just based upon there's only 8 books. So I want, this to be as many people that can vote as possible and all of that. Fire and Blood reminds me a bit of World War Z. Okay. We seem to be getting a lot of traction for wins. Any interesting news that is coming out of it? So, okay, Matthew, I'm going to take a very cynical view of this because I am kind of in the same boat that Preston Jacobs is in. If you listen to him and Red Team Review talk about the kind of latest stuff surrounding George, I am of the same boat where it's just like he hasn't given us any information on it, right? There's been nothing like, oh, I got this much done this year. He's not talked about it at all. And then stuff starts coming out. Oh, he's meeting with publishers. It's like, yeah, he's probably been meeting with publishers like every single year, right? This cookbook that just came out, he met with publishers to put that out, more than likely. That doesn't really mean much to me. And like him saying, oh, well, they're discussing when's the winner. It's like, yeah, probably it's the publishers going, dude, are you done yet? Are you getting close to done yet? Like, they're probably sitting here just like us going, this is happening? Like, what's going on here? So there's a lot of that. But I don't know. Wins to me still, it doesn't seem like it's coming out soon. I have not, Josh. I have not. I've been extremely busy the last like a week, but I should have some more free time, so I'll try to look into that. Fire and Blood, the dance particularly has some of the silliest, most cartoonish things in Song of Ice and Fire. Interesting. I mean, I personally, Andrew, really love the dance section of Fire and Blood. I really like, okay, this is the part with Fire and Blood, is it's a book, since we're on this one, it's a book that starts out really strong. Aegon's conquest. I am someone that on a reread really appreciates Aenys and Maegor's rules a lot. So I really like the opening 250 pages of the book. And then Jaehaerys' reign is tough because you can't just have constant warfare the whole time. It just doesn't make any sense. You need a king or some time period to establish more of the infrastructure of Westeros and have a time of peace before another great time of war. And so Jaehaerys' reign just reads really slowly. Like it's a tough read, I think, when it comes down to it. And then I think a lot of people have criticized the time period, the little that we get after the dance. For me personally, maybe it's because I really like the dance. It's one of my favorite points of A Song of Ice and Fire. And also because I really like the character of Aegon III. Maybe I am different, but I don't know. That's been heavily criticized as well. So I don't know. I definitely see the criticisms of Fire and Blood. It's just, for me, I have a personal bias with it. I really like it. I like dance, but the Essos stuff really holds that book back. Meanwhile, Cersei, Jaime, Sansa, and Dorne really do lift up Beast. So what I think is weird, The Advocate, is in my reread, right? So I really, the last reread I did anyway, is I've always felt like the Iron Islands storyline is by far the most underrated storyline, I think, of the books. Like, for me, I personally really buy into it. I enjoy it probably the most of that book in the small amount we get of it. I do like the Dorn plot. I just think the Dorn plot is so weird because you get a decent amount of it, right? Like the Dorn plot starts within the first 4 chapters of Feast, and then you don't get another chapter for a little while, and then you get kind of back-to-back chapters with like, not back-to-back, but you have Eris and you have Ariane, and then you have a huge gap. The Dorn plotline doesn't come back until the very last, like 100-ish pages. It's really weird because it almost feels like you need more of it. Cersei, and then this is the other thing, right? Like I think Cersei has a great start and she has a great finish. But I think that middle part of the book, because she has so many chapters, she has I think a quarter of the chapters of this book. I'll have more detailed stats when I do my Feast for Crows analysis, but she starts to drag on towards the middle chapters, like right around the middle of the book, and a couple of the chapters, like right before the book, like her plot kind of picks up at the end. It can be really tedious. Like it's some really, especially maybe this is because I read this book kind of back to back to back. Like I didn't really like pace myself when going through Feast for Crows. So like I was reading like 3 chapters for Cersei in like 2 days. And it kind of just all blends together. Like of all of the characters, I could remember like when because I ranked every single chapter in Feast. I have this ready for a video in January. Cersei was like the only character was like, I don't specifically remember where this chapter started and where it ended, because all of it kind of seems to almost blend together a bit. So that's my only like criticism with Cersei. Jaime is good throughout, by far the best written POV of that book. Sansa is good in her 3 chapters. Again, you almost feel like you want more of her, but I'm glad that George didn't give us more of her, because I think she doesn't have enough to do to warrant her having more chapters. It would just kind of feel like she would have a lot of downtime. Clash has always been a personal favorite. Arya and Tyrion are great fun to read. I agree. Clash is, I guess this is a spoiler from where I'm going to put some of the books, but Clash is my favorite book as well. I know that's a very underrated opinion. Euron has Clash at 5. You're a traitor. You're not even a traitor. You're Euron. So like you kind of have to have Feast as 1, but I don't know. I agree, Ashley. I think the Queenmaker, I've talked about this before, it's either in my top 10 chapters of the entire series, or it's in my top 15. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite chapters, especially because Ariane, like, is one of my favorite POVs, so I really enjoy her. Chapter for chapter, I think a Game of Thrones might be the best. So, Andrew, I've really thought about this, especially when I've been trying to rank the Game of Thrones chapters. A Game of Thrones is similar to Feast for Crows in that it has a very similar quality the entire time through. It's not a book in which it has many downs. Like Feast for Crows does have some downs, and I think I would notably point to Samwell, and I would point to a lot of Brienne's earlier chapters, especially like the first 3. Game of Thrones doesn't have many bad chapters. Now, does it have as many like big, huge chapters like A Storm of Swords? No. So, again, that's a argument of why I could see somebody putting a Game of Thrones number 1, because I think a Game of Thrones is the most consistently well-written book of all 5. But I think for me, the reason that it's not number 1 for me is because there's just moments, there's other plot lines that I enjoy in other books that top book 1 a little bit more. Culver's forgot the bacon on my cheeseburger. Maz, that is wow. I give you permission to go full on Karen. Agreed. Winds is nowhere close to being finished. He had 1,100 pages at the end of 2022 and still only has 1,100 pages at the end of 2023. We're not getting Winds soon. I mean, I try to be positive, but it's like George is not giving us anything to really be positive about. Like, it feels like we're like scraping at the bare minimum. Like, hearing him say, oh, he's meeting with publishers, and then everybody starts freaking out. Like that shouldn't really be anything that you should be freaking out about. It's just like, I don't know. Okay, so we have a lot of ties here. I don't know what to do with this because 5, 7, 8 are all tied. So some people think Fire and Blood is like, yeah, it's right there. You know, it's like it's right under kind of the main series or even above one of the main series books. Some people, and then I would say a bulk majority of the people in here have it as one of the worst 2 books of the series. So I think let's redo this poll. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to do either 7 or 8. I think that's what we do here. Given that way over 50% have it as their bottom 2 book, let's do that. So let's do another poll here. And then Fire and Blood. Oh. And then 7, 8. All right. Let's see what you guys say for that, and then that will be where we will put it for now. Fire and Blood Volume 2, maybe? That's possible. I mean, like, Fire and Blood is also kind of more difficult to write because I feel like Fire and Blood Part 1 was basically laid out. Like, there wasn't a lot George was having to write in. It was a lot of filling the gaps, really. Whereas Fire and Blood Part 2, I think, is much more like actual writing. Like, there's just way less that we just don't know about Fire and Blood Part 2. I hope she does not, Advocate. That's fair, Ander. That's fair. Matthew, I appreciate your positivity. I agree, Josh. I do think Theon's like dance chapters. I think just the North chapters in general, when it comes to like Theon and Asha's, were just top quality. Kingsmoot was so much fun to read. Yeah, I have the Kingsmoot rated as my best chapter of A Feast for Crow. It's the best, like, paced. It's the best paced. It has a really awesome payoff. The drama, the suspense in the chapter is just fantastic. I agree, Ghost, as well. But yes, the vote is very even for Fire and Blood. It hurts my soul to put Fire and Blood down here, but I agree, though. No one appreciates Clash enough. I agree, 100%. Maybe Twist. Maybe Twist. Maybe. I'll just go with that. I'm torn. I really like Dance, but it has so much filler. I agree with that. The Game of Thrones is definitely all killer, no filler. I agree. See, Clash is... I agree with it, but Clash has one real smear. Dany's plotline in Clash is not good. It's her wandering around a lot. Not much is happening. She goes to Karth, and then it starts to pick up a little bit, right? Like, we finally get some stuff. The House of the Undying is a fantastic book, or fantastic chapter. But, like, Clash is just like, Clash is just like, Dany, I don't want to read you. Like, you're just not good in this book, which is crazy because I find Dany is one of the best POVs in book 1 and then in book 3 as well. But book 2, she's not very good. Not very good. Jon's chapters as well at times cannot be great. Like, they're still fine. They're not great, but welcome back, Zeno. Again, if this is a good introduction to the series, it's like with trilogies, usually you have a good start, then you get a really good sequel that's just better in this case, The Clash of Kings. I agree. I will say, not always true though. For me, like Lord of the Rings, right? A Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite book. It's my favorite movie. So I don't know. Suppose we'll find out there. We will random stuff. Still haven't read the last 2 Game of Thrones, but getting there. So far, book 2 is my favorite. Interesting. I would say a lot of people would say book 3 is their favorite. I would agree, Josh. I don't think it took away as much time from Wins as maybe we think, just given because I don't think George had to write as much for it. But I do agree though. I agree. I do want more Fire and Blood 2 and Viserys II. Great shout, Zeno. Great shout. 100% agree, Ander. I would also like some more Duncan Egg novellas. Not as much as like Fire and Blood Part 2. I don't know. I don't know. Agreed, Advocate. I agree. We all know why you want more Blackfire stuff, Bittersteel. We all know. I can see that, right? Like, Storm has a lot. Like, I think the thing with Storm is the Red Wedding, and then you have, like, the Purple Wedding stuff, and then you have the stuff after the Purple Wedding, which is really good. There's some stuff in between those events that, you know, I can definitely see that. And again, Samantha, I can really see that, right? And my stuff with Feast for Crows, and I tried to look at it from, okay, if you were someone that's your first reread or your first read of the series, and you just get off of Tyrion and everything going on with that plot, you have Dany, who's kind of reached this new level of power. Jon, a new level of power. He's now the Lord Commander. And you kind of go with this book, and I can see why a lot of people wouldn't care about A Feast for Crows. Like, A Feast for Crows is a book that, of the 5, I think people that are casual readers, so not the people in this chat right now, would look at the worst. And that, I did some research. I went through, again, polls that people have done online and looking at more of audience feedback. And I think Feast for Crows is usually rated the lowest, but I think as a hardcore fan, you come to more appreciate it. Like, when you reread it more, when you understand the themes, the writing, the plots, I think you tend to like Feast a lot more. But yeah, Maz, I agree. I mean, the whole point of book 3 is it's the payoffs. It's all the culmination of the first 2 books laid out. It's all been built up to. What did you think of House of the Dragon season 2 trailer, Grease? I know you said you liked it. Yeah, I thought it was good, right? I think it built up the tensions right where we left off from season 1. I think it did a good job of not spoiling anything for people that don't know what's going to happen in the dance. I think it did a really good job of that. I think Marvel, one of my biggest criticisms with them is they do all these trailers that give away the whole plot. They give away what's going to happen. It takes away some of that element of surprise and all of that. But I thought it was really good. I think it did a good job. I didn't see anything I majorly disliked, and I thought it was a good introduction. Get us back into it. I agree. Clash is Tyrion's best, in my opinion. I also like Stannis. It's basically Stannis' rise to power as well. That's another reason I like it. Well, yeah, Advocate, but here's the thing. Like, we knew Blood and Cheese was going to happen. So I meant, like, for people that are not readers, people that don't know what's going on, like, you don't understand what that means. Like, you just know, oh, okay, somebody has Helena at, like, dagger point. Like, that's not really exposing anything, really. I agree. All right, so let's move on. We spent a lot of time on Fire and Blood just because you guys had a lot to say. Okay, so Fire and Blood, we're going to place at 7 for now. Also, I'm doing this on Canva, so we'll see how this goes. Let's move this down a little. Okay. And needs to come down a little bit more. All right. So 7 will be Fire and Blood. Let's move on. So World of Ice and Fire. I'm going to be honest. Okay, I'm not... Ander, you had a great idea of making it to where I did 1 through 4 and then 7 or 5 through 8, but I'm not doing it for this. It's just, if this book gets above 6, we have problems. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. 5, 6. Oh, don't start pull. Almost pressed the wrong thing there. I can't even put 7. So here's what we'll do. We'll do this. Okay. I'm actually worried about the future of A Song of Ice and Fire shows. I feel it may turn into Star Wars, or the fandom won't be satisfied with any show. That's not why I would be worried. I don't think that's a worry. I think, I know Star Wars has this reputation of Star Wars can't please everyone. And you're never going to please everyone anyway, but that no matter what Star Wars does, Star Wars fans will hate on it. I just disagree. I think Star Wars, the reason Disney Star Wars is struggling so much is because it isolated the fan base, right? If you were a hardcore fan, if you were someone that liked, you know, the old novels that were written in the legends, and if you liked, you know, the prequels, if you liked the Clone Wars, you basically, Disney took a shit on your face and said, screw you. That's what they said. And then they decided to take all of these characters that we loved and destroyed them. Like, they actively destroyed them. And so the shows start coming out. So people already didn't like the sequels. Fine. People still had hope for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that was coming out, the Boba show that was coming out. Again, these are beloved characters. You're going to see the return of Hayden Christensen. I really was excited for that, right? Like, I was not totally driven out of Star Wars at this point. Like, I was definitely turned off by Star Wars. But I look at this and I think Star Wars has gotten to a point where they butchered too many characters or shows that people cared about, to the point where, for instance, right, what we're saying about The Advocate, right? Or not, what The Advocate says about Andor being good. I don't doubt that Andor's, like, good, right? Like, I don't doubt that. There's too many people that have said it's good. I've had a friend that watched it and said it's good. My problem is I don't care anymore, and that's the big part. I don't care about Star Wars anymore. Like, I like the prequels. I like the originals. Outside of that, I don't care about Star Wars anymore because I don't trust Disney to run Star Wars efficiently. They've already done too much to destroy characters that I personally enjoy and love, and now that I have to basically just act like those didn't happen anymore. And so I don't care anymore. Like Andor, and the other part of Andor is it's like, it's a character that I liked Rogue One, but I didn't like it enough to go watch a show about it. Like, you know, it's kind of one of those things. So, I don't know. If anyone disagrees, kick them out. I agree. It should be 8. That's another part though. It's like, how interested are people in, like, the actual history of the world, of Westeros, of Essos? Like, that's never been the thing that has interested me, right? Like, I am someone that'll always say, I enjoy the normal story, I enjoy the Targaryen reign. If you go before that, I don't have that much knowledge on it. I'll be honest. Like, if you want to ask me, like, the history of the Riverlands, I'll be like, I mean, I know the stuff right before Aegon's conquest. I know they were constantly warring, and they went from this hand to this hand, but specifics, like, that's my thing. And then Essos, I just don't know anything about. But we are not rating the new cookbook. Jesse, I disagree, but I can see why you would say that. Again, I see why you guys don't like Fire and Blood. I'm just someone that is very different on it. Yeah, shit talk Disney Star Wars. Yep. Always will. They can please everyone. I don't see, that's the thing. I don't think they can please everyone. I don't think that part of it's possible. Right? Because I think there's the fandom of Star Wars, even before the sequels came out, was so divided, and it was so like even now, right? People are divided on The Last Jedi being a bad movie, right? Like there's some people that really love The Last Jedi. It's mainly people of my generation that like The Last Jedi. Like for instance, I had a friend it was in a college class, and they have like these little questions they do, and one of the things that they put out to the class was, what is your favorite Star Wars movie? And number 3 was The Last Jedi. But I literally told my friend, I was like, if you did the exact opposite and said, what is the worst movie of Star Wars, The Last Jedi would also be in that top 3. And so that's the thing, is like, I don't think you could ever please anyone, because there's some people in the Star Wars fandom that want to change. They want to do things that are different, change what Star Wars initially was, which is what The Last Jedi was. Like The Last Jedi was basically taking the core principles of Star Wars and just going a completely different route, trying to break all of these tropes, which in reality didn't make any sense given the context of the movies. And like The Last Jedi is such a weird movie because it's not a inherently bad standalone movie. It's a bad movie because it is part of a greater world. It's part of a greater story. Like you can't just switch things that are established, right? It's like if Game of Thrones season 1 was a certain way, and then Game of Thrones season 2 came out and was completely different. Like it was tonally different. The themes were different. Things that happened in season 1 are now contradicting things that happened in season 2. Like that was the problem. Agreed, Matthew. I agree. The only thing from Obi-Wan worth remembering is those flashbacks of young Anakin delved into the darker side. Yeah. Or dark side. I don't know why I said that weird. But I mean, I agree. But my thing is, like, they just didn't use Hayden Christensen, like, at all. Right? I felt bad. It's like, because again, this is my thing, right? I'm sitting here and I'm watching, this Obi-Wan and this Anakin, these versions of the characters were my favorite characters. They introduced me into Star Wars. I've always said I was a prequel, like I watched the prequels before I watched the originals, so I didn't know that Anakin was going to become Darth Vader when I was a kid watching these movies. And so they've always stuck with me. I've always enjoyed them. The movies were more targeted at my generation. Again, my generation growing up were kids when these movies came out, so we tend to like them more, nostalgia reasons and clear biases and all. But yeah, they took the legacy characters and cranked out the laziest, lackluster, cash grab, expanded universe bait. Agreed. And agree, again, this is how I am, Ghost, where it's like they've just ruined everything that I enjoyed about Star Wars. So I can't now go to that same company, those same people running it, and go, yeah, let me get back into Star Wars. I just don't care anymore. I agree, Euron. I mean, I think that's the best thing, like, that Disney did with Star Wars was doing Rogue One. It was a great standalone film, but it's also a great connecting film. It feels very much part of this universe in between Revenge of the Sith and then New Hope. So that was a great. I thought it was a really good movie. Solo is just a movie that nobody cares about because literally they just got done killing Han Solo and wasn't even in the greatest way possible either. And that movie had its own problems. Force Awakens was the best of the sequels, but still had its own issues. And so you then release a Solo movie after Solo died. It's like nobody cares. That's why it did so bad, is that nobody cared about it. It's like Black Widow after Endgame. It's like nobody cares. Like, why'd you release this movie then? I definitely can relate to that, Zeno. I'm unable to participate in the poll, just getting a white box. I would try refreshing. If other people are having issues, let me know. I agree, Jim. Like I have a World of Ice and Fire. It's not my background. It's on my bookshelf, like over that way. But the main things I read in it and when doing like research for videos is just the King stuff. Agreed, random stuff. Like Agor, I like history too, but I like it to an extent, I feel like. I know, Euron. I know. See, Haley, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there is this, you know, group of people that do like those movies, and that's why I don't think you can ever truly like please Star Wars fans, because so many different groups of people are looking for so many different things. Like, for instance, the prequels, right? People didn't like politics being in prequels. I liked that there was a political element within Star Wars. I thought, or within especially the prequels, because I thought it made sense. I liked those type of things, right? And some people don't like that. Some people do like that. Some people like more the traditional story of Star Wars, where Star Wars, like, in and of itself, is not a very, like, creative story in general. Like, the atmosphere is cool, the things George Lucas made up were cool, but the actual story just follows a very Shakespearean, like, normal, like, fantasy journey or medieval story. He took that and made it basically into space. So that is one of my favorite lines, though. Somehow Palpatine has returned. Like, okay, but how? Like, but how? Okay, Ghost. Here's the thing. I'm biased to the prequels, but Hayden Christensen's acting, not his acting, George Lucas's lines, and the way George Lucas wanted Hayden to do those lines wasn't great. I understand why the character is like that. Again, given this is a dude who's getting into his teens, he's becoming very horny, and he is this kid that has no interaction with women. Like, I can see why it comes off that way. It's just not great to see. But you know, like, Attack of the Clones, in my opinion, is the worst of the prequels. Like, say what you want about Jar Jar, I don't think he's, yeah, I don't know. Let's move on. World of Ice and Fire is gonna be at 8. Oh, dude, I just look at the time, bro. We gotta start going, man. I'm getting too distracted by chat. I'm trying to read through chat a lot because I haven't been able to do that as much in the last couple of streams. But holy cow, we took like 40 minutes to rank 2 books. There we go. Okay. Moving on. We have a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. All right, let me do this real quick. We're gonna do what Anders suggested we should do. So a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This is gonna be for if it should be ranked within the top 4 or the bottom 4. So 1 through 4 if you think it is a top 4 Song of Ice and Fire book. 5 through 8 if you think it is a bottom 4 book in the Song of Ice and Fire. We're going to do that. You guys vote on this. We're going to go through this pretty quickly, hopefully, and we'll figure out where we're going. All right, hi Mar as well, by the way. Y'all are crazy if you're putting Knight of the Seven Kingdoms in the top 4. I'm just going to say it. I like the politics of Star Wars, even in the cartoons as a kid. Agreed. I just think, like, when you look at the idea of the first 3 versus the prequels, like, the whole story, I'm going to make a video on this about the prequels because it's very important to me. I want to do this on my second channel. When I rewatch the movies, I want to do a detailed analysis of them. But one of the things I really took away is, like, how do you make a story about Palpatine becoming the Emperor without having some sort of politics? Like, is he just going to, out of nowhere, just take it? Is it just going to be a brute force type thing? Like, I kind of feel like politics was needed. Like, it had to be something in there. But yeah, Zeno, like, Force Awakens it's a movie that's aged very poorly. Whereas, like, the prequels have aged a lot better because I think early on, right, being someone that liked if you were someone that liked the prequels, you were literally targeted. Like, people were like, you're awful. You're not a Star Wars fan. Stuff like that. Kind of what the sequels is kind of getting right now is what the prequels used to get. And so I kind of look at that and I'm like, kind of aging the opposite way. Force Awakens, I think because of the movies that came after, got damaged a bit. And people look back on it a little bit more critically, and you're like, yeah, this is kind of a retread of A New Hope. And even the things they did add that were newer or whatever didn't really go anywhere, and the characters themselves didn't really have a lot of things going on. Like, they weren't very interesting characters. Like, they had stuff that could have made them interesting. They didn't do anything with them. Like Finn, I feel like Finn is one of the most interesting characters that they just did nothing with. Like, an ex-stormtrooper is a fantastic building block for a character. A year or two later, they started talking about the flaws. Yes, sir. I have never read the Game of Thrones or looked at the A Clash of King comic books. I've seen them, but I have never gotten them. Yeah, I think that's another thing is, like, when you look at Attack of the Clones, like, when I was younger, Attack of the Clones was one of my favorites. It had all the Jedis in it. It was, you had this duel with Yoda and Count Dooku and all this. It was really cool, but and then when you're a kid, it's like you don't understand love, you don't understand romance as much. And then you rewatch it when you're older and you're like, this is how I look at Attack of the Clones, especially the Anakin and Padme stuff. It's like you go back in your own mind and you go back to, like, a time when you were younger and, like, you had your first crush, or you had, like, some sort of, like, your first interaction, or like a first date or something like that. And you look back and you're like, that was kind of cringy. Like that. Yeah, let's just forget about that. But, the stream, and we are going to basically be talking, or but we're going to be talking about the books. We're going to be ranking all of the books. So right now I have a poll up for Knight of the Seven Kingdoms being either top 4, as it is a top 4 book, or bottom 4, as it is a bottom 4 book of A Song of Ice and Fire. Again, I agree. Like, I don't know how we would have a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms in the top 4, just based on the fact that, like, it's way shorter than all of the main series books. And I get it. It is very well written. I like a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, but it's a very similar argument as in, like, Fire and Blood. It's like not, like, as good as the main series, really. It's a good addition, right? It's a good, like, we're adding more to the world, and it has some great stuff in there, but I don't think it really tops any of the main books for me. Like, personally, I have a bias because I like Fire and Blood more than this book, but I don't know. This book doesn't really have, like, I feel like the stakes aren't as big as some of the other ones. Like, there are some things in here that are very impactful, but I agree, Matthew. I agree on your sentiment on Hayden. I think, McLean or MacLean, however you say your name, or how you would like your name to be said, let me know. But I think that's a common sentiment, right? In the Star Wars community, is like, Force Awakens is a great standalone movie. That you would rank, a lot of people would rank higher than, say, like, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I am not one of those people. I have some of my own issues with The Force Awakens, and I think, for me, I think a lot of people put extra blame on The Last Jedi, and so that makes Force Awakens look worse. For me, I think there's things in Force Awakens that they did that just were not good. Like, they get overlooked because of how bad the next 2 movies were. Like, Rey in this movie is not good. Like, as an opening, like, character, opening movie for a character, you're supposed to, like, go through their flaws, get a building block for who this character is of Rey. She's our main character. And basically what we get in this movie is that she's perfect, she can do no wrong, and she has, like, some issue with her parents abandoning her or something like that, but we don't really get any closure to that. So, I don't know. Agreed on the Finn thing. I mean, Anakin still pulled, so that's true. I think, you know what? I really subscribe to the theory that Anakin was doing some Force tricks on her mind. I mean, here's the thing. I could talk Star Wars a lot, just not the movies and stuff. Now you get into Legends and you get into some other stuff. I'm not gonna do that, but the actual like psychology of why people like certain Star Wars movies or why Star Wars is always hated or the fan base, I find that very interesting to me. And I talk about that a lot. I talked about that a little bit more on my second channel, Samantha, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much you can talk about just on Rey alone of how to not write a character, but you know. So that'll get us to Knight of the Seven Kingdoms we'll have in the bottom 4. So I think I know based upon where that went, where you guys are probably going to rank it, but all right, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Once again, we're going to be doing 5, 6. Oh, no, sorry, wait. So it can only be 5 or 6. That's your only options here. So you have 5 or 6. Actually, you know what? I'll do something else for you guys. Since we have an opening, I will do, there we go. I'll do that. Okay. Mar, I will try to from now on call you, is it Mumel? If I said that wrong, let me know. Do a little breakdown in the chat if I said that wrong. Why Jada didn't do all the movies? Yeah, that's beyond me. I have no idea. That doesn't make any sense. I still need to read the Thrawn books. After hearing so much about them, I was disappointed with what I saw in Ahsoka. I have not watched Ahsoka because I don't care. Even though I like Ahsoka as a character, I just don't care. But yeah, I have them. My dad has the older books, so I want to read them at some point. Moamel? Is that how you say it? Sorry, I'm not great at pronunciation of names, as you guys probably know. Well, Mar, why did I say Mar? Moamel. I hope I said that right. But I can't barely speak English, and it's my own language. So, yeah. By the way, yeah, Hayden Christensen is a very good actor. I agree. Personally, I love all 3 of the prequel movies, and I like even Attack of the Clones more than episode 4 and 6. I'm not an original trilogy enthusiast. That's kind of where I am, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't say Attack of the Clones is better than 4 and 6 for me personally. But, like, for instance, Phantom Menace is a movie that I find more enjoyment in than, say, like, A New Hope. Right? And part of that is because I really like Darth Maul. I really like Qui-Gon Jinn. I like the origin story that goes on there. It's just such an underrated story, in my opinion. But do you follow the YouTube channel Supercuts Delights or Delight? And if so, I can't speak. I did see that they got hacked. I thought I saw it on Twitter, and I thought I saw that they got it figured out, but then I saw it today on my YouTube feed because I am subscribed to them on my personal viewing account, and I saw that they uploaded a Fortnite video on how to hack. So yeah, that was interesting. I know someone on TikTok asked when Hot D fans are wishing bad things in characters, and to be honest, the reason is because the show itself, it puts a team versus another team. I'm a little confused by your question there, or your statement there, Zeno. I agree, Josh. Yeah, I don't know about the white screen thing, because somebody else has also said that. If you want, you can put down in the chat what you would vote for. It'd be 4th, 5th, or 6th. Oh, okay. I get what you're talking about, Zeno. I get what you're talking about. Okay. I get what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good marketing campaign. I am someone that's getting into a lot of media production and a lot of that, and why that will be made. It's it's just good for marketing. Think about how far the Team Cap versus Team Iron Man went. A lot of it's for marketing, but at the second part of it, it gets you more invested in the show, right? Like if you're picking a side, you want your side to win. Like it just gets you invested. So I see how it can be bad, but I also think it's good, like from a marketing point of view. 6, okay, all right. All right. Looking at what you guys put down, it was pretty clear it's 6. So I won't rerun the poll just because I think it's kind of close, but I'm gonna go with 6. I'm gonna go with 6. I'm gonna say you guys think it's 6. I don't mind that placing. I think that's fair. Like so far, we're pretty similar to what I'd actually do on a ranking. Like I think for me, the only difference here would be this one would be here or maybe in 5. I don't know, one of the two. All right, we now have a Game of Thrones, the crown jewel that started it all. Let's get into that. Okay, so let me make this up. Hold on. So a Game of Thrones. I'm not even going to bother putting the number 5 because no one's going to put it number 5. And even if you do, like, you're going to be in a very minority position. So we're just going to do this to save time. We're going to do this to save time. I don't know if we're going to get through all of this. I put it 6 just based upon the fact that that's what majority of people voted. As in, like, one of them. Like, one option is what they chose. Like, I get your point. I do get your point, like, why you would put it, like, 5, but... Or... I did that right, yeah? Yeah, 6. But yeah, I get your point, like, when you look at 4 and 5, you know, 58% of people put it in one of those two, while 40% put it in 6. So I do think maybe we could revisit it. Maybe we revisit it, right? I could see that. Personally, I thought it was good. I don't think it was great. I think House of the Dragon had its, you know, hiccups here and there, but I did think it was pretty solid. 2 for me, at least 3 or 2. I'm kind of curious to see what this is going to be because for me personally, I know exactly where this book would be for me, but Mar, I'm going to be, why do I keep saying Mar? I'm just so used to saying your name like that, but I don't know what I can do. Also, I'm going to attempt to try and say your name correctly as Ander put it in there, but Muamal? Or Muamal? I'm so bad with names. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I don't know what I can do. Like, because I've tried re-putting it in, and so if it's anything, it's on YouTube's end. Like, I can't really, it's out of my hands. I can't really, there's nothing I can really do to try and fix it. It definitely doesn't deserve the hate it gets on Twitter. Like, I'm critical of it, but it's because I want it to be good. I mean, for me personally, if you guys want to hear my take on this book is it would be 3. But again, I understand why people would put a Game of Thrones at 2. It's, in my opinion, like I talked about earlier, most consistently written book. It's a fantastic entry into this world. There's a lot to like, right? The way this book is written is very unique compared to the other books where it's basically a mystery political drama where we're trying to figure out what happened with Jon Arryn, what's the big secret, what's the big reveal. It has one of the best like endings of any of the books, with Danny bringing dragons back into the world and magic coming back. It's much more grounded, right? Because we see magic kind of come back into the world after this book. So, you know, again, part of that is true. Like what Maz says, where it's like there isn't much of a magical element. Like outside of like the first chapter, like kind of like the end, like there really isn't any magic in this. Whereas like it's gonna kind of increase the more we go. Hatim, I'm not sure what you're asking. Like, are you saying like the ending for Winds of Winter, the ending for House of the Dragon? I always want to say Game of Thrones is my favorite, but Clash is better. Okay. I think Tyrion's Clash of Kings storyline is the best for a character within a book in the series. Let me think about that. Like, that's an interesting idea. I would probably agree. I think Jaime's Storm of Swords or Feast for Crows are both really good as well. What's another good one? I think Catelyn has a pretty strong arc in book 2 as well. Book 3, Arya could be a good one. I don't know. Personally, the Army of the Dead / White Walkers aren't my favorite part of A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm more into the political drama with Yeah, I agree, Zeno. I agree. That's kind of where I am as well. Either that or Jaime, a Storm. Yeah, we're kind of on the same wavelength, Andrew. Theon, that's another great shout from Ashley. Theon and Dance. Again, Zeno, I'm right there with you. I agree. Okay, so I think we're going to go with 2. I think we're going to go with 2. That kind of seems like where it's voting. Like, there's some people that got it in 1, some people got it 3 and 4, but 2 is kind of distinctively where it's kind of ranked as a... Let's do that. Put that at 2. So that gets us to a Clash of Kings. Now, this is going to be controversial. This is one of those books where I feel like you either love this book or you hate this book. Or not hate this book. You either love this book or you're like, it's good, but it's not like the best. That's kind of, I feel like most people rank this. I didn't want to do that. We're taking that down. Hold on. Don't vote in that. I didn't get all my options out. Okay, hold on. Don't vote in that. All right. Let me do that again. Hold on. Clash of Kings. 1, 3, and 4. Okay. Is that all? Is that what we have left? 1, 3, and 4? 1, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let me do that. 5. Okay. There we go. Number 3 for me. Okay. I can see that. I don't really hate House of the Dragon, but unnecessary cringe spectacle for the sake of nothing is the one that really throws me out of something. In episodes 5 to 10 have a lot of this. I hope season 2 is better. I agree. I think there's a lot of questionable moments where it's just, why are we doing this? Like, I think specifically, episode 9 is the biggest case of this. Like, why are we having Rhaenys come out of the ground? I think that's the biggest one of that exact point that you're talking about. Just reread it, and I think I enjoyed it more than A Storm of Swords. Well, you'll love to see that, Ander. So, right now, the options are Clash of Kings, whether it is the 1st, 3rd, 4th, or 5th best book in the Song of Ice and Fire books, or list, whatever. I can't vote in the poll, so maybe just add my number 1. All right, sounds good. I will keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. This is very unfortunate, though. I really hate that YouTube is not letting some of you guys vote in the poll. I don't understand why that is. Maybe next time we'll do a poll that's not on YouTube, so I can actually control it a bit more. Because like I can't really Like, there's nothing I can do outside of maybe logging into, like, or going on to maybe the YouTube studio on YouTube, maybe doing it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do about that problem. It's just another one of those YouTube has problems. Like, I don't know. End of Song of Ice and Fire is what I mean, and Clash is my favorite. You loved that. Let me go back up. So the idea that the ending of like A Dream of Spring or the main story isn't going to be like well liked by everybody, or some people aren't going to like it, that's just going to be natural, I think, right? I think everybody's not going to like the ending. It's just that's how life works. Now, I think not liking it, but also having it make sense and be somewhat satisfying is a whole different story. And I think that's more what George is going on. Like something that makes sense for the ending, but it's something that doesn't please everyone. It leaves you with a little bit of sorrow as like you go back on these 5 books or 7 books whenever it's finished or if it's finished, and you're like, maybe we could have done things differently. I don't know. This book is a 5 and starting close to you. I'm curious, Euron, why would you say that? Like, what is your reasoning for that? I have reasoning as to why I think like someone may say that. Like, I think big reasoning would be if you're a big Dany person, like if your favorite character is Dany, you hate this book. You absolutely hate this book. If you're someone that doesn't buy into the Stannis Tyrion conflict or the Lannister conflict as much as like other people do, if you don't buy into Stannis' character, you're not going to care about it nearly as much as you will some of the other stuff, right? So, I agree, Metal or Maz. I think that'd be way better. I gotta ask, how do you feel with Alicent being marketed more than Aegon II? I know people are mad with that. I don't know why, right? Because Alicent should be being marketed more than Aegon II. Alicent is, like, outside of Rhaenyra, she is the main character of the story. Now, part of that's going to shift. Like, as the seasons go on, this happened with Game of Thrones as well, you have characters that rise to the forefront and the others that kind of fall. Alicent is going to be a character that's kind of going to fall, whereas characters like Aegon, Aemond, like all these characters, they're going to kind of climb up more and more. That's just how things are going to go. I don't really see that as an issue. That's how it should be. And yeah, Samantha, maybe it's because I'm doing it through Streamlabs. I don't know. Peach Scene really makes this book. Yeah, Peach Scene is top 10 chapters for me. Small council chapters are fantastic. I would agree. I could see that, Euron, right? Like, I could see why you would say that. Like maybe Arya is not as great. Like, Jon, I think Jon's a weird one because I think this book is not a strong Jon book. Right? I think that's one thing you look at this is like some of our main characters, Dany and Jon specifically being our 2 main ones, really, kind of have very lackluster books. It's not their best books. Also, Metal, that's a nice play on words. I respect that. Even though I disagree with your opinion, I found it very fruitful. But yeah, I think the main 3 POVs that make this book, Davos, Catelyn, Tyrion, those are like my main 3. I think Sansa, a bit underrated in this book, but, you know. Yeah, Xeno, like, this is my thing, right? Like I talked about with Fire and Blood. Dance of the Dragons, that time period is one of my favorites of the entire, like, Song of Ice and Fire universe, right? It's one of my favorite moments. And so I want it to be really good because I don't want this to be another series where it's like Game of Thrones. And I have to tell my friends where it's like, yeah, I really like the show until this moment or until this season. Like, so that becomes such an issue where, I don't know. It just becomes a very big issue where it's like, I want it to be good. I want it to be fair criticism. I realize that I have my own biases. People don't like to think that I recognize those, especially when people react to my Ned and Ashara videos. I all the time get, you have a clear bias of this and this. And I'm like, literally say that at the beginning of the videos. I literally say that. I am an R plus L person, so I have a clear bias. I try to make that well known so you guys understand, like, I'm going to have a bias towards, you know, whether this opinion or that opinion, and I try to make that known, but that's a whole nother rant. That's a whole nother rant. Okay, so given that 1, 3, and 5 are all tied, I know there were some people that said they had 1. I think we're going to go with 4. It doesn't really make sense to move it up to 3 or 1 just based upon the fact that it right now, by far, number 4 has the most votes, and 5 is still tied with 1 and 3. So I'm going to put it in 4. As much as that pains me to do, because this is my favorite book, I think that makes sense. I think given what we had for voting wise, I think that makes sense. I'm really curious the way this is going to turn out. I think I know how it's going to turn out, but all right. A Storm of Swords is going to end up probably being number 1. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. It's going to be probably 1. A Storm. Why did I type it out? AS, okay. Boom. And then 1, 3. I'm just going to do 1 or 3. It's not going to be 5. We're just going to do 1 or 3. The last 3 books are your top 3. Interesting. Okay. I'm not gonna even like bother putting 5 on this. Like I was going to, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm just making an excuse as to why I'm not going to restart this poll, but I can't rationalize putting Storm of Swords on this at 5. Like, even though this is a fan voted thing, I won't allow you guys to put it at 5. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Especially when it is by far like the most loved book. Like, I'm okay with it at 3. Don't get me wrong, I'm okay with it at 3, but 5, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't feel good about that. I'm gonna act like nothing happened. I don't know why I do this like every other stream, but I take a drink, okay, and it just like goes down the side of my mouth, and I just miss. This is what happens when you're stupid. Like, oh boy. Storm of Swords is number 1, A Dance of Dragons is number 3, and A Feast for Crows is number 5. I agree. Given the spots that we have left, that's the way I would do it. That's not the way I would have ranked them, but but yeah. I this is not the way I would have chosen it, but like with what's left, that's where I'm gonna go with it. But yeah, Dance of Dragons is looking like it might be 3. I'm shocked that there are no big YouTubers that criticize Hot D. They seem to love it. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's, I don't even know, like, because in certain mediums you could give other rationale, right? You could say like, oh, with like Rings of Power, for instance, you could tell some of the Lord of the Rings YouTubers were trying to get on the good side of like Amazon, for instance, right? Like you could just tell there were people just not in the Lord of the Rings community that were not giving it criticism, or they were being very light on the criticism. And that's not really the case in A Song of Ice and Fire, because it's like, you can tell, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I agree though, Andrew. I do agree. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't criticize Hot D fairly. I don't know. That's what is so great about A Song of Ice and Fire. There isn't much difference in ranking from the 5 books. I mean, Jim, I agree to disagree. Like, if I did mine, I'll kind of show you mine at the, I guess, the end. Well, hold on. I might not even, we might not get done here. So I might just, like, show you guys what it's going to end up being. But Storm of Swords is going to end up being 1. It looks like. And then this next one will decide the 2 votes. So we got to do this quick. We got to do this quick because I got to get dressed and then I got to leave here in a second. But let's do this quick. Okay. So Storm is number 1. We'll do Feasts next. So Feast is either going to be 3 or, is it 4 or 5? I don't remember. 5. Okay, so it's either going to be 3 or 5. So let's do that. Can this go away? Thank you. Do you want to complete the broadcast after completion, or do you want to complete the broadcasting Q&A? I'm a bit confused on your question there. But you learn to appreciate after what we could get season 6. Yeah, it's true. I agree. I think that's a fair point, Euron. I think for the most part, casuals really do enjoy it. Feast dance, that is a controversial opinion. But I understand why you are doing that. The poll is Feast for Crows 3 or 5? Feast for Crows is getting heavy 3. I did not expect that. I thought Feast for Crows would be 5. If you guys want me to be honest, I thought it would be 5 easily. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to let it go for like another minute, and then we'll see. I do agree, Andrew. I do see a lot of that. I do see a lot of that. I'm going to let it go till it hits 6:28 on my computer, and then we're going to call it, and then I'll kind of tell you what mine would have been, because I think mine's way different. I mean, this is my thing, right? I have no problem with you guys putting Dance 5. I'm just like, I'm surprised Feast for Crows is 3. That's where I'm surprised. Because, like, Dance for me is still, like, 4 or 5 for me. Okay. Okay, hold on. We're getting it 1 more minute. Not 1 more minute. It's probably going to be like 20 seconds now, but. All right, nothing is changing. Let's lock it in. So, the final vote is going to determine that Feast for Crows is number 3. Hold on. This just looks bad. Why is it not letting me do it? There we go. And then. There we go. Okay. So, Dance is going to end up being 5. This is so frustrating because I have a text bubble right now that, like, for the numbers, it's locked, so it's hard to, like, please over. All right. So, that is our final. Now, the way I would have done it, my actual ranking would have been a Clash of Kings 1, a Storm of Swords 2, a Game of Thrones 3, Dance 4, Feast 5, Fire and Blood 6, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms 7, World of Ice Fire 8. I'm kind of in between on Fire and Blood and Dance Nah, I'm not. Fire and Blood would be at 6. That would be my ranking. But yeah. I do like Dunk and Egg. It's just I can't rank it above other books that are significantly longer, are significantly more impactful to our understanding of A Song of Ice and Fire, or they're the actual story. I don't know. All right, guys, that is going to be the end of the stream. Unfortunately, I do not have any more time. I wish we'd had a little bit more time to talk about this stuff. But thank you guys all for joining the stream, and I'll see you